Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton, who is Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, the $1 Million Show. Today is June 13th, 2016, and we're coming to you worldwide. We keep it real. We talk real sports, Big C, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Charlton and Big C Sports. And I know, Big C, we've been talking so much about NBA basketball, and I know that we also had the great celebration for Muhammad Ali last week. Spent the whole week honoring the great Muhammad Ali as the greatest boxer ever. And he's done some things, Big C, that actually, I think it created a little bit of social activism, Big C. Again, just wrap it up, Ali, what he meant to you and what it might mean to athletes going forward, Big C. Your thoughts on Muhammad Ali?
Charlton, one of the greatest social activists of our era. This man meant so much to so many. He was humble, yet he was boastful.
Yeah.
But he also cared more about others than what he cared about himself. He gave away so much of what he earned on his career, purse-wise, and even after his career. He was a continuous giver, Charlton. And what he gave more than anything else was his heart and his soul.
Yeah.
We can always talk about the money that athletes and corporations have, but how much of you are you willing to give so that others can benefit from it? Ali is still giving, and others are still benefiting from him, Charlton, after his death.
Yeah, I agree with that, Big C. And also, I love also saying bienvenidos to you in Latin America. So we thank you so much for tweeting in, also over in London, England, Berlin, Germany, and Canada, and of course the great United States of America. Now I know, again, just going back to what Ali meant, at the end of all the ceremonies on Friday, I think we had the great Harry Edwards, Professor Emeritus out of the Bay Area, out of Cal Berkeley, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hall of Famer, and of course the great Jim Brown with the Cleveland Browns. And they were talking about just picking up where they left off, Big C. They were talking about going forward and what people can do to honor what Muhammad Ali did as an activist who also stood up against the war. And we know that cost him his professional title, also some money, went to prison for something that was later proved that he was justified and not wanting to go fight in the war, Big C. So with that said, how in the world will athletes stand for something to even try to get on the same page that the great Ali was on, Big C?
Well, Charlton, unfortunately and fortunately, athletes only stand at the bank teller now. They're not about standing up at their community.
Yeah.
That's the only place they want to stand. They're not going to go out there in the forefront because they're kind of concerned that it may cost them some endorsements if they're too loud and they say something against society. We saw what it cost Tiger Woods with his extracurricular activity. We also saw what it cost Kobe Bryant about a decade ago in Colorado.
Yeah.
When you have these allegations screamed against you.
Yeah.
So, athletes now, Charlton, they want to be out of the spotlight when it comes to activism, but they want to be in the spotlight when I can show off my $500,000 car, my $1.2 million watch and necklace.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. And that's something that I want to bring up because we know we're in the heart of NBA basketball, and so much is happening with football starting up. In fact, if you walk around the bookstores, you can see pictures of magazines, sporting news, I think Sports Illustrated.
The NFL Network is showing nothing but replays 24 hours a day of NFL games. The hunger for football in America is second to none. When you think about what's important in life, football ranks in the top 5 in America.
Well, it seems that way, and even down in great Southern California, we know the Rams are coming back, but I think there's more excitement around USC football getting ready to go beat Alabama in the Kickoff Classic. They have guys that usually are out surfing. They're out lifting weights now, Big C, waiting for that game.
There's no Mr. Rourke and tattoo coming along. This is not Fantasy Island. It won't be the plane. The only plane they're going to be on is wanting to get out of that game, Charlton.
Well,
Let's be realistic. I mean, that Trojan horse will be a broke down nag when that game is over, okay?
Okay, now this is kind of ironic because over the weekend we saw, I actually had to tip in and I saw it because I was wondering, what am I missing? And obviously, when you're media, Big C, you got to see what's going on, whether you like it or you don't like it. And speaking of liking and not liking, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, I was watching over the weekend one of the greatest athletes to ever play football out of California. Also rode the Trojan horse, the great USC, O.J. Simpson. He was in the news on these new documentary that they have. It's a 5-part series. Now, what they talked about in the movie, ironically, I didn't know it was going to come up, but Harry Edwards had talked about it just that Friday, and I think it aired Saturday. Also Kareem, and then also Jim Brown. But OJ refused to become a political person because he just wanted to make his money. And ironically, he became one of the wealthiest and actually first African-American athletes to get major endorsements. I think Hertz Rent-A-Car made him their marquee guy. So when you talk about guys lining up for their paycheck, OJ did it first. He was a Hall of Fame running back at Buffalo Bills, but in USC, he was a Heisman Trophy winner. He also helped them win, I believe they won a national championship with him. They actually had a close game against UCLA. But he set the standard for USC, and he became one of the first famous athletes, Big C. Does that make any sense to you?
It does. He's a forerunner to the athletes today. When we talked about Ali was ahead of his time, Charlton.
Yeah.
You can see the same thing in the maturation of O.J. Simpson during his marketing years, not only just as an endorser with Hertz and other companies, as well as being one of the inaugural black broadcasters who had a steady job on television, Charlton. He's very articulate, very handsome as a man. And there's two separate OJs, okay? We're talking about OJ the athlete, the entertainer, versus OJ the personal life that everybody wants to placate now on television. But, you know, I look at this OJ series, Charlton, in a way. Why did it have to be named OJ? You could have named this after Martin Luther King. You could have named this after Malcolm X. You could have named this after historical figures who really played a key role in the racial divide in America. You could have called the Thurgood Marshall story, Charlton. Why did we do OJ? OJ, the reason for the name of OJ was to incite uneasiness in Caucasians, Charlton. If you look at it, you just had the series Roots. It came out 2 weeks prior to that. To make it insightful for African Americans, Charlton, to bring out the anger. Now all of a sudden you bring out OJ's name and you plaster it all over television. It's an insightfulness of the Caucasian race to get them mad. So now you got basically a race war that's wagering on television. This was a very calculated movie.
Very calculated.
This series shouldn't be about OJ. OJ was just an individual in the whole crux of what was going on. But his personality and everything, Charlton, was very insignificant in the totality of what was going on in the 60s. If you want to look at Lee Evans and Tommy Hines, Charlton, being banished from the 68 Olympics for raising their fists in the air. If you want to talk about the Black Panther movement, Charlton, the Black Panthers set up daycare, they set up preschool, they set up free school lunches. These are what African-American groups did, Charlton, not OJ. So we don't talk about the positive things that African-American groups did. I'm not saying we. I'm talking about major network television. They don't want society to know how beneficial it has been from the activists in the black communities back in the 60s, Charlton. They want to talk about OJ and keep that name rolling.
Well, think about what happened, ironically, at the great University of Southern California. We know it's in the heart of South Central Los Angeles, and for a lot of people back south, they may not understand that there's so many people within a small area. I mean, the LA Basin has 15 million people, but communities are segmented. They're always sometimes... If you cross one side of the street, it may not be as diverse, even though California is very diverse. But this is something that was ironic, Big C, because we talked about Ali and his influence, and he had people speak in his eulogy, like he had pastors, he had ministers. Of course, some Hollywood actors were there as well as former President Bill Clinton. But at USC, because it's predominantly a Caucasian or white institution, even though it's a private institution, anyone can go there, they said something that was so chilling. They said that USC is so powerful in the banking system in Los Angeles because of cronyism and nepotism. It's so powerful in the TV industry in Los Angeles. And what made OJ famous was that he was a good football player, Big C. Not that he was great at other things. He was a great football player. So USC, we talked about Lynn Swann going back to the great Southern California, and they're getting ready to win another national championship. We know that's going to happen as long as they're not cheated. So we know their football team, Big C. But this is powerful.
Soccer's very big. They call football soccer down in Southern California. Football. Okay, I got you. Well, so they have a chance.
They have a chance. But the lightning rod behind this, because you eloquently touched on something last week. I was asking you when Jim Brown was saying, how do we stop crime in the majority inner cities, black on black crime? And you lamented that when people don't have a job but they don't have food, they're going to prey on each other, whether they're white or black. But when it's black, it's more polarized on TV. But the great USC, they were saying that in order to get anything done in the business sector, oftentimes that 6-degree separation that we've heard about, USC has so much power in the banking industry and in employment in Southern California. If you were a good old football player, you had opportunities. O.J. Simpson saw that, and he didn't want to be a part of the movement that Ali and Jim Brown and Kareem were a part of, because he wanted to make the money that no other athletes were getting at that time. So maybe he was selfish, Big C, but financially, he made a lot more money than all the guys that boycotted and were protesting throughout the country. Maybe that's selfish, but that's what the athletes are today, Big C. So O.J. was just 30 years ahead of time. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, it's hard to take a 21-year-old young man across the slate and say you have to be the number one activist out there. Now, you think about how many people were not activists and did not participate in the movement. But it comes down to polarizing those you think should give up all of what they have and make a stance.
Yeah.
Now, across the nation, there were many African-American athletes, such as O.J. Simpson, who did not get involved in the movement.
Right.
But neither one of those were in the major media market, Charlton. If someone is not in the major media market,
no one cares.
You gotta look at who made O.J.
Yeah.
The media made O.J. O.J. was a great football player. He wasn't the first Heisman Trophy winner at USC. Matter of fact, Mike Garrett, who had been the previous athletic director removed 2 ago, right before Pat Hayden, had been a Heisman Trophy winner for USC. So O.J. had followed in the suits of many other African-American athletes who had played at that great institution. He was not a novelty. So, he just followed the role. But, when you have people interviewing you all the time, Charlton, he actually should have been the first 2-time Heisman Trophy winner when they gave it to Gary Beebe in his junior year at USC. He actually had 200 yards less rushing than what Gary Beebe had passing, and Gary Beebe won the Heisman Trophy. It was a similar scenario to Ed Marinaro when he lost the Heisman Trophy to Pat Sullivan when he led the nation in rushing twice while he played at Cornell. But, if you look at the similarities, it was Ed Marinaro at Cornell, okay? Running back, leading the nation in rushing 2 consecutive years, versus an O.J. Simpson, a running back in Southern California, leading the nation in 2 consecutive years. They both got into acting, but who was more polarized? O.J. Simpson more than Ed Marinaro, Charlton.
Well, think about something that you just said, too, because I know that you brought this up last week, and we've been talking about it the whole year since we started. And I think Chris Rock was talking about the Oscars and how people need to have consideration for the Oscars. Well, who cares about the Oscars? What you really need is employment. You can get celebration.
How many jobs do the Oscars create, Charlton,
nothing. Outside of that Hollywood,
Those boom people, those sound people, those editing people, those producers, directors, those craft services people, Charlton, they're already contracted. They're going to be there. It's not like every time you make a movie, okay, we need 300 African Americans to participate behind the scenes. That call doesn't go out. So let's take the acting out of the equation. Unless it's an all-black movie, Charlton, let's not look at black participation because it's just not going to be there. And the 2 or 3 that you put in a mainstream movie, that's not going to break the bank, Charlton.
And speaking of breaking the bank, and I go back to this thing where when Jim Brown was saying on ESPN with Hannah Storm and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and also Harry Edwards, he was saying that we need to find a way to invest our money, time, and resources into these communities of poverty, whether they're black or white. And you were saying it's a corporate responsibility as well. We were saying, what about guys like Phil Knight? What about guys like Jerry Jones? Or what about a Bill Gates or a Warren Buffett? But see, what we talk about is true. You know how I know it's true, Big C? Because USC on that documentary, as people were watching OJ run the football against UCLA, what they said, and I played it back twice because OJ became popular because people gave him an opportunity. And the people that gave him an opportunity, they happened to come from the University of Southern California by making phone calls, that cronyism and that nepotism thing that works when you're part of the brotherhood or part of that fraternity. That does not get replicated throughout the country. Now, they'll take a top athlete, whether you're black or white, and if they want you to have a job outside of playing your sports, all they have to do is make a phone call, Big C. That's how most people get jobs in corporate America. And what I like...
So look at it from this perspective, okay? There was another great athlete across town at Westwood during the same time. The greatest basketball player of all time. guy named Lou Alcindor, I think his name was during that time.
Yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
And he won 3 national championships, and ironically, as a freshman, he won his 4th because they beat the varsity team, the freshman team did, who had just won a national championship. So technically won the first 4 national championships in college basketball. But he changed his name soon after turning professional, Charlton. To Lou Alcindor. Okay, now, at that time, he was ostracized. Now, he was the greatest player in the NBA. He won Rookie of the Year, MVP, won a title in his 2nd or 3rd year, and O.J. never won a title in the NFL, never even got close, won a couple of rushing titles.
The 2,000 yards.
When you talk about marketability, Lou Alcindor was the iconic figure of the NBA in the 70s, but he could not get endorsements because of his Muslim faith, such as a Muhammad Ali. Mainstream society wanted nothing to do with him. So when you look at that and you talk about O.J. not being an activist, I don't blame O.J. for not being an activist.
No, I agree.
O.J. was, as he said, he was O.J. Everybody, if all blacks had aligned up being activists, Charlton, during these movements, would there be any black strife in America today? No. Would there be black-on-black crime? It'd be very minimized, Charlton. The blacks would be a very positive and solid community, but that they did not line up as activists to help each other. It's just like we're talking about corporate America not lining up to help blacks get jobs and create opportunity.
You see, and that's so powerful, Big C, because when Jim Brown brought that subject up with Harry Evers and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you had been speaking about that on Charlton and Big C Sports the whole week prior to that, and then somewhat throughout the last few months. But see, the point here is this. Sometimes society will say, well, look at the black man, they should try harder, or they should work harder, or whatever. But reality is, no one worked any harder than a lot of the black athletes is becoming the next great athlete. But what happened is what you talked about, this Rooney Rule that the NFL has, and Goodell talked about getting more African Americans into the internship so they can learn how the front office works. They've been excluded. In fact, one of the guys that helped O.J. Simpson become the spokesperson for Hearst, his whole point was, will white people rent cars that a black man is promoting? And they used his dominance as a running back at USC to have them say yes. Why is that important, Big C? Jim Brown talked about it. You talked about it first. It has always taken, just like Lyndon Baines Johnson to pass the Voting Act, it's always taken the mainstream culture to open doors of opportunity. And that's the thing that we've been talking about on Big C Sports, Charlton and Big C Sports, how the NCAA not paying athletes is an antitrust violation. If you pay people to come to your great institutions and help them win games, that takes the burden off of their families by sending home or sending food and money that they don't have. That would lessen the stress that happens when people do leave home, Big C. And we talked about it, but O.J. lamented that back in the 1970s. We've been talking about the last few weeks, Big C. It's not black America that has to change. It's the mainstream that has to be willing to be fair and equitable. And that's the same thing we've been talking about all season, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
White America does not look for equitable opportunity, Charlton, amongst African Americans nor Hispanics, okay? They hire a handful of them and say, hey, we're not racist. We got a couple of them on air. You know, matter of fact, I got a good friend live down the street. What's his name again? Bob? Okay. You know, that's how they look at it. But, you know, we last week celebrated the greatest athlete, humanitarian that we've known in our lifetime. Okay? And we still talked about him today. What outlet talked about him today, Charlton? None of the major outlets mentioned Mr. Muhammad Ali, Charlton. It's over with as far as their eyes are concerned. Let them go in on back to living, not his legacy. His legacy is what's most important, even more important than his life, Charlton. His legacy. Now, you got all of these people wanting to interview these great former black athletes and activists last week, Charlton. They were all in the forefront. They were all so emotional. They were all so caring and
crying and everything else.
You know, we got to praise Muhammad Ali. Oh, God, you know, we got to look back on the past and, you know, talk about what he meant to us. And none of them really do other than reading a script. Okay? How many black advocates, Charlton, are they going to go out and interview this week talking about Muhammad Ali and the strides the black community can make, Charlton? How many stories are you going to see on ESPN other than OJ? How many stories are you going to see on Fox? How many stories are you going to see on NBC and CES? You're not going to see them. CNN is not going to cover this great man, Charlton. It's over. If they don't speak about it, then his legacy goes away. This should be a daily ritual on these outlets, Charlton. speaking about how important and how much he meant and produced for American and world society.
And see, that's something that I think is so important because oftentimes it takes like 21 days to change a habit. We've heard that. It also knows that repetition is the mother of all learning. We've heard that. And so when you say something once and you don't even talk about it again, people tend to forget. So I want to bring this up again because what we've been talking about all year long, especially when Chris Rock talked about protesting and boycotting the Oscars, it's not about boycotting. It's about participation and mainstream culture because there are those who are good and bad in every culture. But just like Ali was prescient enough to have a social consciousness, there are people in the mainstream media that also have that same social consciousness, like Howard Cosell had that. So that push, and I think Roger Goodell, as much as he gets criticized, Big C, I do want to compliment the man because he didn't have to say what he said. Whether he does or not, I don't know. But he is trying to create more opportunities for men of color to get opportunities within the NFL, Big C, because outside of lip service, when I heard these established white men saying, well, we'll take a chance on OJ, but, you know, he's not too black, he doesn't sound black, and he's attractive, and he's a great athlete, we'll give him a chance. They didn't make every white man go through that strenuous loophole before they gave them an opportunity. They were just white, so they were good enough. That's a conversation that happens in white America that they won't talk about publicly, but they know it goes on. So just like Billy Crystal was there to eulogize Muhammad Ali, also the great President Bill Clinton, it's going to take people of social consciousness, and they happen to also be Caucasian because many of them worked in the civil rights movement. They marched. They have to be the ones to change. It can't just be blame the minority and put the pressure on the minority or put the pressure on women. It takes people in power. And when you've been talking about that all year, and I heard Jim Brown and Harry Edwards and Kareem pick it up, that's the same thing that gave OJ his opportunity. It wasn't that he was a great football player. It's that white guys with ability and power said, we can profit off this guy, let's give him a job. Your thoughts on that?
Well, their favorite line is, you're not like the others. I've heard that so many times in my life. What's not like the others, okay? That's what they said. I mean, there were many African-American athletes who had the same scenario that OJ had, athletically, articulation. But if they were too articulate, now you were intimidated.
Yeah.
That's the thing you have to look at. Someone such as the Kareem was too intelligent. He was very socially aware, politically aware, so he was too intelligent. OJ you could mold, and they're still molding OJ to take society and have them have separatism in society right now, Charlton. To take him and name a show with him 21 years after he was charged
because it works.
A very heinous act.
It works, though, Big C.
And put him back in America's forefront.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Only reason you do that is to incite anger and separation. When we talk about corporate America creating equality and opportunity in America, these are the type of scenarios, Charlton, that have corporate America said that we can't do it now. And this is the reason why, because of somebody like OJ, we can't take the chance of creating opportunity for other African American males.
Well, see, that's so powerful because when we talk about things, they tend to come true, Big C. So there is that push for conscious people of all colors and all faiths. When I looked at the eulogy for Muhammad Ali, they had people who practiced Buddhism. They were Mormons, they were Baptists, Catholics, they were Native Americans, they were agnostics, they were Jewish, they were atheists, they were people of all faiths that talked about how great he was. So hopefully, it's always taken a few. I think the Army or the military has a commercial that says, all we need are a few good men. And speaking of a few good men, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California BMW dealer, home of the ultimate driving machine. Go down and test drive the ultra-powerful 600 horsepower M7, also known as the 760 Li. And when you're driving, let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, we know that the Stanley Cup playoffs are over, and the Stanley Cup was won by the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I want to say to all you people in Canada, it must have been difficult watching the Americans win something that came out of your country. But Big C, your thoughts on the Penguins? That's their fourth Stanley Cup, Big C.
Their fourth Stanley Cup since the 90s, Charlton. But, a bit of relief for Canada. It was won by a northern U.S. city. So, that's the one bit of salvation that they can get from it. One of those coastal cities winning the Stanley Cup would not have went over too well with the great country of Canada. But, you have to take your hats off to the Pittsburgh Penguins, the great Sidney Crosby, winning the city's fourth Stanley Cup title, Charlton. Hockey is such a great sport. You got these huge hulking men running around with knives strapped to their feet on ice. Like, you think about how great and how graceful that is.
Yeah.
You know, to have that balance and that coordination.
Yeah.
And you really have to respect and admire hockey players. As we talked about, Pittsburgh won the Stanley Cup. We lost the great Gordie Howe. Last week also, Charlton.
Yeah.
So it was bittersweet for the NHL. You lost Mr. Hockey, the greatest player the NHL has ever known. Even though Wayne Gretzky broke many of his records, Gordie Howe was just a magnificent gentleman, ambassador, and hockey player. And I want to pay homage to him as well as the Pittsburgh Penguins.
And Pittsburgh Penguins also won that series 4-2. And this segment also is sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealer, home of the all-new F-150. They build it Ford tough. When you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Also, Beneath His Wings Foundation.org. Make a donation today. It's easy, it's fast, and secure. Also, a donation for Charlton and Big C Sports. And let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, something else I want to bring up. Now, I know we talk about Ali. We talk about Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Harry Edwards. We talked about OJ, and they still have that series coming up. Tonight's game, over in the Oakland, you have the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. They could close it out and win this series in 5 games. Draymond Green got suspended. Now, I know a lot of people are mad at LeBron James because he complained that he was called a bad word. And I don't think any athlete has ever used a bad word in sports, Big C, so I can understand why the great king would be upset. But I kind of agree with him that maybe Draymond Green should not have been suspended, but he also shouldn't use bad words, Big C. We've heard sticks and stones will make your bones, right?
Can we say crybaby? Can we say crybaby? LeBron James talks as much trash as anybody in the NBA, as great as he is.
Yeah.
Whatever Draymond Green said to LeBron James, there's only a couple things off limits when you're an athlete out on the playing field.
Yeah.
You know, someone's family, their mother, their children. Those things are off limits. But as a player, there's nothing off limits. Like I told you one time before, I cussed a guy out so bad during a game one time, and it was continuous. It wasn't just one incident. I had a teammate apologize for me because he was embarrassed.
Yeah.
He didn't think I could go that long saying that much stuff. I even had the officials threaten me.
But Big C,
but as long as I wasn't looking at the guy, the officials couldn't say that I was talking to him. And LeBron does this all the time. Now, what LeBron did was an intentional act, stepping over Draymond Green. He should have been called with a flagrant foul at that point.
Yeah.
That was a baiting scenario. And LeBron, Draymond Green, Charlton, was entitled to get up off the floor.
Yeah.
So if you're standing over the top of him and he stands up and you're going to call a foul on him when you've already made an intentional act, you're going to tell me that LeBron was not conscious of the move that he made? He wanted Draymond Green out of the game.
But see,
the worst part about it, Charlton, if Golden State goes on and wins the game tonight, LeBron gets punked.
Yeah.
How can he ever have any respect for himself?
Well, see,
because he's blaming everybody else for his team not winning.
Well, I will say this for LeBron James. I think we always talked about having class. And we know we just celebrated Muhammad Ali. He was the biggest trash talker in the history of boxing. But it's part of getting in someone's head.
Trash talker,
a good career. So we know that's part of getting in your head. Larry Bird was one of the biggest trash talkers in the NBA. We know guys, Michael Jordan, he was a big trash talker.
He cussed everybody out. He cussed the officials out and walked away.
And we don't need to say what Charles Barkley said to people, but it's not like
Charles Barkley created a whole new vocabulary. And whatever Shaq said, you just walked away. You're like, hey, I don't even want to bother him.
No, Shaq.
He tripped and fall like it didn't hurt.
Shaq was too big. If Shaq bumped into you, you just pretended that it didn't happen because you know there's a beatdown waiting. And speaking of a beatdown waiting, this final segment is sponsored by United Labor. Guaranteed $100,000 life insurance policy, no medical questions. Also by Goosehead PNC, we beat about 99% of the people when it comes to property and casualty. Also, I'm a broker with One Life Insurance with a leader and final expense. So, Big C, what I will say LeBron James had the right to do, he had the right to complain. I think that every player in the league complains, so I don't think he should have gotten suspended because he was not ejected from the game. I do think we talk about Las Vegas, and this is a chance to try to get another game out of this series because there's a lot of money lost if you don't go into 6 or 7 games, Big C.
There's been great ratings. Even though the games have not been great, there's been great ratings because people want to see Golden State back-to-back. They want to see LeBron win another they want to see him win a championship in Cleveland.
Yeah.
The Midwest is very hungry for that, so you got great ratings there. But when you look at it and you're down 3-1, and Golden State was down 3-1 to Oklahoma City, okay?
Yeah, different team.
but in a totally different team. Now, what you look at with Golden State, Charlton, nobody really has been hot yet for Golden State. Everybody keeps talking about Kyrie and LeBron and J.R. Smith getting hot for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Nobody's truly been hot for Golden State. That ball has been spread equally between the organization. If you look at the first game, was it Livingston who was the highest scorer in the first game?
20 points,
20 points, guy off the bench who hadn't played any time. And you look at the 3 wins, the Splash Brothers have not taken off.
Yeah.
So the thing about this is, last year, Iguodala was the MVP, okay?
Yeah.
He was the MVP. Everybody kept waiting on Steph Curry to get hot. But this is such a balanced team that you can't isolate on anybody. You know, when you can go 6, 7 deep into the bench, Charlton, you can wear a team out. And what you're trying to do is play catch-up all the time, whether it's taking shots or even keep up with players on defense, Charlton.
Well, talking about taking shots and keeping up with players, I think you think that they'll burn his jersey if he doesn't get another championship in Cleveland. I just think this love-hate relationship, how they're saying, the fans in Cleveland, they're so passionate. They love LeBron James. They love the Cavaliers. But when he left, they set his stuff on fire. Isn't that a movie? I forgot the name of the movie, but when you think about when people don't love you, they can burn your clothing. Well, LeBron is trying to win in the championship for the most part. People that hated him.
Yeah, Stella got a groove.
Yeah, Stella got a groove back. Yeah, she burned the car. And in fact, she burned his old BMW, a 7 Series. I remember that, Big Z. I was thinking, why don't they just give me that car instead? But I think whether you love LeBron or hate LeBron, I do think he's right in one sense. That is
try to correct myself, Charles. Let me correct myself.
Yeah.
That movie was Waiting to Exhale.
Waiting to Exhale, yeah.
Fantastic, Whitney Houston, and a great cast of characters.
I remember that. Waiting to Exhale. So hopefully LeBron may wait to exhale one more game if the league gets their way. I think they want another game, because if you're going to start looking at who hits who, LeBron plays he plays basketball like he's a football player, Big C. And I think
he's bully ball. He plays bully ball, and he should have a Kleenex commercial. Honestly,
well, he might.
Man should have a Kleenex commercial.
He might get one.
He's got the tears of a clown.
Well, you know what? The guy's earned a lot. He's made a lot. One more story I'll touch on in about the next minute or so. I know there's a lot of great contracts in the NFL. Von Miller was offered 6 years, $114 million. He hasn't signed yet, but there was another big signing out of Philadelphia, one of the biggest signings ever for someone who's not a quarterback. I think $63 million guaranteed. And so when you look at contracts, what a day. I think you played ball about 30 years too soon, Big C. They're giving guys $100 million for playing D-line now.
Jonathan, when you look at the players now, what they get per diem is more than what we made during the season. Okay?
Chump change,
huh? Much money covers a weekly contract for us.
I remember. Go ahead, Big C.
But you have to give praise to these players that are making it. I mean,
get the money.
Absorb the money and money.
Yeah.
But you got the fans who will always buy the tickets, but that's not where the money's coming from.
No, it's coming in corporation sponsorship, yeah.
They're constantly getting these huge TV contracts. They're selling luxury boxes. They got cities building stadiums for these teams, Charlton.
Yeah.
So the owners is not out of a lot of money when it comes to his, place of business.
Yeah.
But, when you look at Trent Cole getting this kind of money, you have to, really admire the young man for all the work and effort that he's put in.
Yeah.
And as we keep saying, they give them the money, Charlton.
Take the money.
Any owners crazy. Nobody crying.
Nobody's crying.
Nobody crying.
I remember.
Like, hey, how much you want? How did Tony make? Give it to him. Ain't no big deal.
Well, it's like when Lynn Swann, I guess he was meeting with the AD and Nick Saban down at Alabama, talking about how they're going to make arrangement for the game when USC and Alabama going to Texas, and all they know for sure is that they have the money in the bank before they even get on their chartered planes, Big C. But these athletes, USC gets to ride the horse, and I think Alabama, they get to pet the elephant. Is that what it is, Big C?
Well, that horse will probably look real good on a barbecue grill. We can let Peter know what I'm saying. But, after the game, they're going to have something to eat. They're going to be broke down. It's going to be broke down. There's going to be nothing left of it.
Well, I tell you, we're always looking forward to it. But, Big C, sometimes the show goes by too fast. But every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m., Pacific Standard Time, worldwide. Catch the Charlton and Big C Show. Follow us on Facebook, also on Twitter. And we want to tell you that we appreciate you, we thank you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.